Alright, so this is all this rock I took photos of here. I'm going to load them into Meshroom. It's like 24 pictures. So as you can see, these are the photos that I took of this rock. This is a great rock too. I like the texture and the color, and it's just a nice rock. Which I don't need two photos that are that similar, so I'm going to remove that one. That one's kind of blurry. I'm going to remove that one. And that is basically that. That's just, well, they are slightly different. You just don't want duplicates if you don't need them. But that's a good start. Let's take a feature extraction here and change this to not for CPU extraction. This is one that like an NVIDIA card can do. AMD users, I believe you have to leave that checked. Texturing, I always change this to 16K. It'll downscale it to 2K. It'll downscale it to 8K. You can change it so that it makes a 16K texture though, or you can reduce it even lower. But I prefer to keep them all because it has a tendency, this thing has a tendency to create more than one texture map for a mesh. By making it the maximum size, you can almost guarantee that that mesh is going to only have one texture. Now, if you walked around your whole house, took a photo of everything, and you put it 16K, it's still going to need more than one texture. But anyway, let's save this thing. I'll call this Nice Rock 2. Now this is just going to take a little while, so I'll restart the video here when it's finished. But basically you hit start and all these little steps will be completed. They'll all turn green, and once it's done, you'll see the texturing is green. If any of them turn red, then there was an error. Which each one of these, you can click on each one, and you can go into the log and see what it's doing. You can even look at the statistics to see what kind of workout it puts your CPU through on the steps that use CPU, for example. I'll tell you, some of them look like, some of them pretty intense. Some of them look like interval training, like a bunch of ups and downs. But yeah, you can do that. You can look at the attributes. There's a lot of things you can change. I'm just not getting into all that stuff. I'm just keeping this simple. I'll be back when this is finished. While we are waiting on our Meshroom mesh, we can go ahead and set the scene up for the model. We're going to import two models. We're going to import a low poly and a high poly. First thing is you got to go into the render engine and change this to cycles, because only cycles gives you the option to do any baking. And I'll use GPU compute, and this I will change render max samples to only 128. I don't want to be waiting all day for it to render. So that's the first prep work. I guess I can go ahead and add two empty plane axes and go ahead and call one base 0, 0, the other 0, 1. I mean start 0, 1, sorry. Base 0, 0, start 0, 1. And I'll make one more. Add empty plane axis BB underscore auto billboard 25. Now I'll hold shift, I'll left click and drag, and I'll drop BB into base like that, and I will hold start, left click, drag and drop start, and put that into base like that. Now once we get our mesh in here and then we make a collision mesh and our different LODs for the rocks, they'll all go into start 0, 1. Now I can go ahead and go onto the desktop. Or actually, let me go into the level I'll put the rocks in. So in your level, like just say this level outrun here, in art, I'm gonna make a new folder. I'm gonna call this Nice Rock 2. In that folder, where's my other Nice Rock? There it is. I'm not gonna go through all those different textures and stuff like I did. Well, I never posted the video, but I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna take this main.materials file, copy it, and then in this Nice Rock 2, I'm gonna paste it. I'm gonna open it up with Notepad++, and up here, texture name goes here. I'm gonna call this Nice Rock 2. I'm gonna copy this. Remember, if you copy and paste, you can't misspell it by accident. That's one thing I know. Alright, the color map, I don't have one yet, but I'm gonna call the map the texture map, I'm gonna call it Nice Rock 2.dds. I'm gonna make a normal map for it. And it's gonna be called Nice Rock 2 normals.dds. And that's all the textures I'm going to do for this. Ground type ice. Let's make this. I think stone is one. I'll just leave it blank for now. It'll be asphalt if I just don't put anything. So we'll save this. Now we got our Meshroom still working in the background. Should be about finished. It's almost finished. Almost finished. Almost. As you can see along the way what it did. So here's all the photos that I took of this rock. There's many photos. Now this is going to be an issue probably under here because the object's got like ambient occlusion, like from the light not getting under it very well. It may not be very, it may look bad under here. I know it did the first time I made this rock. Been meaning to go back and retake the photos for this. I just haven't yet. So what you see are the cameras, and you see the point cloud, which is the mesh. I mean, it's almost done. I hate to try to edit this video, but I guess I ain't got no choice. I'll be back when it's finished. Oh, it is finished. We'll double click on texturing and we'll turn off structure from motion, and we can see our mesh. And this is the mesh. Turned out quite nice, I would say. It's just a little high on the polygon side. Alright, so if you would like to see the comparison of what Meshroom made based on the photograph, I can just click on these and it'll show you the mesh and the photo that it got that particular angle from. So this helps you. Look, it even put that leaf in there. That was, I would have moved that if I had seen it. But yeah, that's what. That's why you don't want any blurry pictures, because blurry will transfer onto your texture also. I mean, it just goes by what it sees. That's why you also try to minimize any depth of field. But anyway, let's go to the attributes of the texturing and let us grab this long, ridiculously long name location and copy it to the clipboard. So what we're going to do now is go into Blender and import OBJ. Now we'll paste that long location name, and there's our mesh import. Now don't move it. If you move it, you're in trouble. Can't move it. You gotta leave it where it's at. Oh, you didn't have to get that. But there's our mesh in Blender. Just leave it where it's at, because we gotta do one more thing. We gotta go back to Meshroom. Now, here at the end, right click on this and remove it. The node that connects mesh to mesh in the texturing node. Right click, mesh post-processing, mesh resampling, and now connect mesh to import mesh. Change this to 0.005 and start. And it's already done all the other stuff. It just has to do this, which it's already finished. Alright, so what you'll see now, let me turn this back off here. Let me reset the view. What you see now is a very low polygon version of the same rock. Now, say you don't want to do any baking in Blender, you know what, I'm just fine with how it turns out in here. I don't care about the texture. I mean, I don't care about the high polygon baking and all that other stuff. You could just simply connect output mesh to mesh here and say start, and it'll texture it. But it takes a few minutes. But while it's doing that, I'll go ahead and go to mesh resampling attributes, and I will copy this location to the clipboard and go into Blender. I will come back to this later. Let's go into Blender. Let's import in the low poly model, which it doesn't need a texture. It doesn't need one. You're going to be baking onto it a new texture anyway. We just need to paste that location, import in that version of the mesh, which now you can see why you don't want to move anything, because it is in the exact same spot. Now, double click on textured mesh and call this high. Under it, double click on this and call this original. Oh, I don't mean to put caps in there. Just call it 1. Just call it 1. The other low poly mesh, call this low. And just for the purposes of baking the texture and not confusing you, just call this 2. And you know, you're baking from 1 to number 2, going from 1 to 2. Also, select them both and say Object Shape Smooth. Now, we got a little cleanup to do, as you can see. There's more stuff than what we actually need to bake. I mean, we don't need the ground and all the other stuff. So what I do is I select them both, I go into edit mode, and in here I will turn on this X-ray toggle. I don't need to see what I'm selecting to know that I selected it, so to make it easier just to see what I'm doing, I just turn all this off by hitting these 2 balls here. I just got to remember to turn them back on, because what I'll do now is I'll change this to lasso, and I will start drawing a lasso around the things that I do not need, like this, and then I will say delete vertices, and I'll do that around here. Now if you want to see what it's actually doing, by all means turn the balls on. When you really got a lot of high polygon stuff and you're doing this, it can slow down a lot. That's why I used to turn it off. but this isn't too bad. Alright, the rest of the cleanup, well, you know, all the other cleanup and stuff we can do later. In fact, the last rocks I made, I just left the bottom on them and trying to, you know, clean them too much. You know, you can just cover that up with the ground, that's no problem. That would be good enough. Alright, so now we're done with that. The next step is to make this a little easier to see what I'm doing, I'm going to hide the high poly model. So all we have here is the low poly model, and that's pretty damn low. We're going to go into edit mode. We're going to hit A. Let's turn off X-ray. We're going to hit A to select all, and since this has not got a bottom to it, it's pretty much like a, you know, it has an opening down here, which means it can be unfolded without needing a seam. Think of a t-shirt, how t-shirts have seams that need to be sewn together. Well, if you were to undo a t-shirt, you'd have to undo the seams. Same thing with a mesh. If a mesh is solid, you got to make seams so that it knows how to unwrap the UV mats. So we'll unwrap those. We'll go into our UV editing, and we'll see, like a tablecloth, it was unwrapped. You have to unwrap if you do not let Meshroom texture it, which I didn't. I said I was gonna come back to it, but since I mentioned it, I'll just show you. This is the textured version that Meshroom has made of this low poly model, and as you can see, it did not do very well at all. No sir, you can't use that. So that's why I don't even fool with it in here, not the texturing of low poly stuff. It will do it if you don't make the mesh sampling so intense, but then you have more polys and you don't want a bunch of polys. So back to Blender. We got our UVs unwrapped. We can now uncheck this high. Now here's something that is important that you must see. If we get up close to our mesh and we like pretend we're a little bitty person and we are standing on this white low poly mesh, how high does the original high poly version extend beyond that plane? Well, you can measure it. This is kind of crude, but you can see like that's 0.03. Let's look for some more spots that we can check the measurement. You might turn this on to see. So then we'll measure from there to there, and it's like 0.3 or 0.03. You see what I'm trying to show you? There's a little space in between that exceeds the other mesh. So this is what you have to take in account for when you bake. A lot of times, like for Meshroom stuff, you can just put 0.1 and that's good enough. But I just wanted to point this out because it is something you have to consider. When you go into shading here to do your baking, let me show you real fast. This is where the bakes are shown, over here. Anything you bake will show up over here. This view is the texture. Now this is the low poly model, which doesn't actually have a texture on it yet. It just has a material assigned, but it doesn't get an actual texture. That's the number 2 that I renamed. Now the high poly model, this is the one that I said is number 1. This is the texture from Meshroom. This is the 8K texture here that was exported. So what we have to do is we have to go to the second object and we have to say add texture, image, texture, new. Now just to save time, I'll make this 1024 by 1024, and we don't need the alpha channel, so that'll get turned off, and I'll say OK. Now this texture will be what we bake, the diffuse. Now I select this in number 2, which is the low poly, So that lets this thing know that is what I'm baking to. But in order to bake from one to the other, I must first, inside of this window, select until it picks the high, and then hold shift and then select again so that it picks the low in that order. You can try to do it up here by clicking that and saying to that, but that's just going to cause problems because this is going to try to, just don't do it that way, just do it this way, trust me. Now go to here, and remember, if you are not in Cycles Renderer, you do not get an option to bake. And once again, I changed my max samples to 128. Now at the Bake tab, you'll see in here, Diffuse. Now we don't want to bake the lighting that Blender is using, which, you know, if you want to set up an HDRI light to have like realistic shadows baked onto your object, like video games sometimes do, where they just bake the shadows on the things, you can do that. But for this video, we're just doing the color map. You have to say select to active and open this tab and give it a max ray distance of 1. And this is where I said that extrusion is, that measurement, which is only like 0.3. But I'm going to just say 0.1, just to make sure I get it all. And then bake. And over here, we'll get our preview. It shouldn't take very long. And we will see that pretty tablecloth with a texture of this rock. The extrusion thing I was telling you about, the reason why that can be a problem is, like say it's 0, it may not be, yeah, see, that's 0. So what you're getting now is you're getting the difference of that area that I showed you, which is not accounted for. Because think of it like a photocopy machine that can photocopy along the z-axis, up and down. But to photocopy something with height, you have to give it a area that it knows to scan, but within a certain limit. So maybe 1 would be too much extrusion, whereas 0 is not enough. You just have to see, like 1 is too much. It went beyond, and now it's like processing other parts of it that's not in the right range. That's why I said that number. Let's just see 0.3, how that would have came out. And you'll kind of see what I'm doing here. See, that's about perfect. And that's what I measured. So what we'll do now is over here, Image, Save As, and in that folder that I created earlier, just gotta navigate to it. And I'd say also, when you do this, make a shortcut. You'll be going to it a bit. Nice Rock 2. Now what I'll do is I'll add it in the bookmark, and then I'll move it up to the top. That way I don't have to go hunting for it again. And I'm going to call this just Diffuse. I'll turn off compression, and it's going to save as PNG. We're going to convert it to a DDS though. Now we're going to add a vector normal map. We're going to go down here. Now if you notice, I am in number 2 still, not number 1, which is the high poly model. I am in number 2, but I have to also add a image texture. Now this one will be the normals map. Now what makes the normals different? First of all, let's go ahead and make this 2048 by 2048. We don't need an alpha channel. We just say okay. This is important. If you're baking normals, which is what we're about to do, we're about to bake the normal map, you have to bake with linear color space. See over here in the bake thing, I'll just change this to normal. It's normals. It was on diffuse, so we're baking normals now. All this will stay the same. Nothing else will change. And then we'll say bake. And we'll see that normals map show up. You can name these, but since you save them, you can name them when you save them. That you don't have to name anything in particular. And now what you're going to see here is going to be the high polygon normals from the high poly mesh. That is, that's an ugly yellow. That's not the right color. I'm wondering why that is. Let me do this 0.1. Did I say I usually do 0.1? Well, crap. I guess that's going to have to be. Let's just say that usually they're purple. I don't know why it's yellow. Normals. No compression. And once you save it, you have to change this back to linear light. Alright, let us undo the eyeball for the high poly model, so we are only looking at the low poly model. Let us connect color to color, normal to normal, and what we'll see now is the high poly normals that are now baked on the low poly mesh, which that's what makes a low poly object look like a high poly object. Now if we connect the color map to the base color, you see now we got a textured rock that is actually very low polygon, but you can see what the normals map does when you bake normals. It makes it look better. Alright, so we're going to disconnect this. We're going to disconnect this. All we need to save for our texture name is simply the name that we give it in this folder, which I said is Nice Rock 2. So I'm going to copy this to the clipboard just so I don't misspell it, and I'm going to paste it right there. And we can get out of the shader. There are other things you can bake in here, like ambient occlusion and roughness and all them other maps, but we're not doing that today. We're just going to focus on just the basics. So let's save our file. I say save it now because right before we delete this high poly rock, we might want to come back and bake. So we'll just call this high poly rock 2. Save. Now, we don't see a texture on it because I haven't converted them yet. So for that, I will load GIMP. I use GIMP. It has DDS format you can extract. Alright, so in that folder we got our diffuse and our normals. We'll drag them into here. Now these are already power of 2, so all I need to do is just export as, and on in that folder I'll just call this, well, you know what I need to call it is what I call it here. So the color map is going to be called this. Export. BC1 compression type is important, and generate bitmaps. Alright, now we'll save this one. Export as, what did I call the other? You know what's crazy? I can remember, like I said in the other video, I can remember like mesial, distal, lingual, like the say the mesial, lingual, occlusal third of the maxillary lateral incisor, but I can't remember a damn name. I mean, that's from 30 years ago, and I can't remember this damn name that I just named something. So, yeah, I've got some, definitely got some short-term memory issues. Alright, so, where was I going? Oh, yeah. Paste. Now this will get BC5 compression and generate bitmaps. So, back to Blender. If you want, you can just go ahead and load the texture into here that you converted. This is where that bookmark comes in handy. Just open image. We'll let the normals map and all that. That'll actually be handled with that file that I created. Now let us move this to the center here, which the 3D cursor by default is at 0, 0, 0. So we're going to take the object and set the origin to the 3D cursor, and then we'll just set the origin geometry to origin like this. We'll rotate it around now. We can rotate it and everything. We just need to. Now I realize this thing has got specularity and not enough roughness. None of that matters because you don't have to set all that stuff anyway. Just leave it or ignore it. I just want to make this thing so that it is on the ground and not crooked. Now, let's import in something from the game that gives us a sense of scale. I always load in the hopper. Now that rock is not as big as I want it to be, so I'm just going to scale it larger. I don't want it too large because the texture only rendered at 1024 by 1024. I guess I should have rendered a higher resolution like 2048, but this will be fine. Like I said, you can render higher textures if you want. That's good for me. Let's delete the card. Alright, let us name our mesh now. We'll change the name from low. We'll call this nice. Nice rock. To underscore a 3000. Now let's delete the high poly. We don't need it. Let us hold shift, left click and drag and drop nice rock into start 01. Now let's duplicate it. Now let's call this one a 1500. Now hide the 3000 so that you only have the 1500 lit up, and then go over here to add modifier, decimate. Now this high poly one is 637 polys. The low poly, if you click on planner and tell it to remember UVs, you can squeeze more out of it, like making it look a lot lower polygons and still look not look too bad. That's what I'm trying to say. Because remember, this is going to be the next LOD that draws as you get farther away. But you don't want it so much of a change that you see it going from that to that. You know what I mean? You want to kind of pick something that's kind of like, you know, less but not as much, and apply it. And then you can duplicate this one. You can call this one like A500. And then this one, reduce it even more. Put a decimate. You don't have to do, I usually don't even fool with log management unless I'm like going to share a track or something. I need to make sure everybody can run something good. I'll make sure I do it. But this thing's reduced a lot now. Apply. Now what'll happen is it'll make a billboard, which is a 2D. This right here will create a billboard for you, and then as it gets closer to you, it will switch to these different LODs, and the farther away it'll switch to the lower poly versions. So that's how you would do the log management for this. Now we just need a collision mesh, and I'll just duplicate the higher polygon version here, the 3000. Shift D, duplicate, and put COLMESH-1. Damn caps lock key. Collision mesh 1. Mesh. There we go. COLMESH-1. This is all ready to go. So all we need to do now is export our DAE into, I didn't say apply all transforms. There we go. Export DAE, and this is going to go into Nice Rock 2. I'll call this Nice Rock 2. It's not necessary to copy the textures over, but it doesn't matter. They're already in there anyway. It exported our items. Let's load our game, and let's look at our pretty rock. Oh, damn game's already running. I need to close the game because it will act crazy if it's running and you start throwing stuff into a level like that. Because a lot of times it'll crash when you try to load the level. Oh man, this damn thing. I hate when it does that. Well, it's not running. You know what's real bad when you're making like the perfect video, you ain't screw up one damn time. You know, man, I don't even have to edit this thing. I'm doing great. But I'll be damn if it ain't the day they decide to update the game and you gotta wait like an hour for damn Steam to download and update. That's bad. Oh yeah, turn your volume down. It's very windy on this level. That's an odd shit. I just left the field on. I was trying to force it on yesterday to keep it stay on. I couldn't make it stay on. But now it's on low. Crazy game. Let's go to our asset browser and let's go to that folder, Nice Rock 2. Let's put Nice Rock 2 mesh. And lo and behold, what we got is a Nice Rock 2 that is apparently got the normal flip sometimes. Damn, that's screwed up. What did I tell you about making a video? Everything's going good, and god damn it if something don't screw up. How did the normal get flipped on that kind of this? I don't know. But that's what it appears. Normal to flip. How the hell did that happen? Maybe mesh resampling. I didn't say flip the damn normals. That could be what it was. So let's go into Blender and flip these sons of bitches. I'll pick all these objects. Go to edit mode. We'll say A to select all. Mesh, normals, flip. Object mode, object, apply all transforms. hope that fixed it. Alright. A lot of management just needs to be adjusted. I don't want it to switch that soon. And then you turn that down, get to damn it, man. So, here's a rock. Put S11, scan for material properties. And, wow. Click on the sky. Nice rock too. I'm gonna stick it. Isn't that what I named the damn thing in English? Did I overwrite the other rock? Oh, no. What did I call that damn text? See, when I'm talking about short-term memory, I thought I called it nice rock too. Why? That's not the right texture. It's not pulling that texture up. Well, that's some weird shit right there. Don't pull it up. What I do different that I don't normally do? I don't damn know. Let's just take these out. Oh, you dumbass. You didn't put a comma in a damn extra. You didn't put the damn. You didn't put the shit at the end of the damn shit here. You dumbass. Dumbass. And the damn camera closed. Like I said, it can make you mad. You never can go with it slow and make fun of yourself. Well, it'll piss you off. That's the damn truth. Alright. Let's see. Material. Nice rock too. Here we go. Yeah, I just forgot to put that shit at the end. And once again, somebody that's the key. It ain't even on. That's fine shit, boy. Crazy. So, here's a rock. A nice rock. Move it to here. To here. Now, I'm going to also give it a detailed measurement. Now, I'm not going to go into the PBR material for this one. I made something for some other material. I'm just going to sign the management that I already made to be second. I don't get it, man. I don't get it at all. It's like the material don't exist. Son of a bitch. This is one of these times I got to delete the damn temp folder. I could see why nobody in their right mind would want to mess with this. But when it works, it's great. It works most of the time. I just gotta figure out now what the hell's going on with it. I think because it made that cache file for this, that somehow interfered after I did fix it. It's just confused. That's all. It's just confused. Oh man, I'm just trying to decide if I want to post this or not. Damn it. Irritating. It's irritating, man. I damn sure ain't starting over on it. I'm done making this video. Alright. Okay, now it's working. I can tell that it is working. That damn temp folder, man. Alright. You can load your asset browser and you can drag and drop maps into your folder. And as you can see, without adding manual maps. Let's see it. Especially if I add it to the second slot. But just remember, to do that, you have to change it to 1-to-1 if you're using that same image. But you can see what the normals have done to the rock in the game. We can increase the clarity even more if we go into the our photo editor and we make a high pass filter map of this. High pass filter is a filter enhance high pass. I'll usually do like one subdivision and I'll increase the contrast a little and export as, and in that same folder I'll call this nice rock 2 underscore HP for high pass filter, or you can put detail, whatever helps you remember, and that'll be BC1 compression type. Back in the game. Click on the asset browser. Right click on it to refresh asset so you can see map. Put this in the detail map, and you can see that it greatly improves the clarity of this rock with that high pass filter. And that thing, them things shining on it. Now what you can do, you can go and think, I would say make sure on surface filtering design, and your advanced tab, if you want to turn on the level of reflection map, then you can go up to reflection map. I just load the same damn map into it. So look at something contrast against not all reflective. It knows how to do it based off the texture, so that texture, so you can see we got a little reflectivity, not a lot, just a little, just to give it a hint. You want to save on your GPU, you'll hit those, change this to a fuse map. I usually just click on it in here, and you can make your own, but you just look like a gray or something. Gray neutral. This is the amount of normal map that you add to it. I'm gonna get rid of the reflectivity. So I don't need it. Now here's another way you can make a normal map based on, for that second normal slot. Go to filter. Now this is like what I call a poor man's normal map, because it's not really baked normals from a 3D object, it's just doing a filter. But in generic, you got normal map, which will apply just a generic normal map to it. The only problem with this is this normals map being generated from a 1024 by 1024 image, so it's kind of low resolution really. Just say OK, and then duplicate the level twice. And hit Shift S to scale, and make the top layer a few pixels larger than the bottom layer. I'm going to hit Shift S on the bottom, make this one a little smaller. So we're kind of offset a little. We've got 3 different levels that are 3 different sizes basically. But to see them all, we have to change the mode to overlay. 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 Actually, the last one didn't need to be overlay. But now we got this nice little effect here. Merge visible layers. Export as. I'll put detail 2. That's a second detail map. PC5 compression type. Generate bitmaps. Inside the game. Refresh the directory. Refresh asset file. Drag with new ones. Oh, I named it wrong. I called it details because it should be normal too, but then that's just different. Drag it into here, and you'll see what that alpha sounds like. Well, I like that better. That's what some people may say. Now, it don't. This doesn't. To me, it doesn't look good. I mean, that is the bump map, and that could work. I just personally prefer the date normal switch. This isn't a great example to really show off what the normal does on this rock in particular. Mostly because I didn't bake the normals at a higher resolution. They're pretty low. But that's that pretty much. I'm sure everybody may want this rock. So what I'm going to do is make a few sizes. I'll just take it and I'll scale it all down. So that'd be like the medium size. Export as new rock 2. This would be new rock 2 underscore medium. Or, yeah, medium. Damn caps lock key, man. Medium. Export. Make this one even smaller. This one will be small. That one will be tiny. I'll just go back in time and I'll scale that one large. Wait a minute, screwed up something. Hold on. Export as CAE. Now back to the game. Reset the asset. Tiny. Oh man, you know what? Lord management off. Because I don't want to see the billboard for that thing so close. So yeah, since it's a tiny rock, then you got to take into account that the LOD management is not going to be the same as it is on the big rock. So there's the small. You know, see, this is changing lots too fast. I don't want it to change so quick to the camera. Not really small. Medium. That's the large. one probably fine. It's hard to see if that switch on back on. I wonder if that's some damn new problem. Please that switch is live, that's all. You don't want to see the billboard or something so close. That's the DV auto billboard. And that's the low-poly version. You see it change live. You don't want it to change so quick. That's the problem. And it's also a problem with cameras. That's good. It's getting on my nerves, man. I need to save the low. What the? Yeah. You believe this? I mean, really, what's going on with this thing coming through, man? I don't damn get it. I want to say something, but I'm not going to because I know that's what I can I'm just not going to say what I'm really thinking. Import in, we'll import in the tiny one first. So we'll open this up, and as these LODs here need to be adjusted. So this one needs to be like, I don't know, 50. This one needs to be like, I don't know, 200, and this one maybe 400. Let's re-export this one and check it. That was the tiny one, right? I hope so. Son of a bitch, I know what I did. What I did was import in the damn son of a bitch without making a new damn general thing. Which renamed the damn texture. It renamed it, put a .001 after it. That's what it did. To redo it. What'd I tell you? There's that 001. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's the problem with Blender, man. That's the tiny one. That's about right for that. I'll do it in that size. And you dumbass, make a new damn general before you import in the other one to avoid that problem again. Small. Let's double check, make sure. You didn't know I'll mess up my damn. No, it's right. So this one I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna put this first LOD at 100. This one I'm gonna put at 250. This one at 350. Or actually, I'll make this one 200. I think that'll work. Export as, overwrite. Alright, so that's a small one. That large switch will work out just for that. Next one, will just be the regular one. Import in. Nice rock 2. This would be the medium, I think. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna mimic the other one. Put this at 100. Put this at, I don't know, 200. Put this at like, I don't know, 350. And I don't need the damn light or the camera to go with it too. Export as DAE. Only 2 more to go. If I'd have damn thought about this earlier, I wouldn't have had to do this again. The large rock. 100, 250, 500. No, yeah, that'll probably. No, let me change this to smaller. Let's change this to 350. Export as DAE. Alright, one more. Delete all this shit. Import in. The large rock. The large rock. See, you should have these things so. Oh, I already did that one. You should have these things so that they are the right log transitions for the right time. You don't want them to switch too fast. So then it looks like crap and you see them switching. You want it to be kind of a gradual change over time. And unfortunately, we're not going to really get to see that in here. Without the blurring effect now. Well, this one is changing still too quick. Which one is that? Just nice rock too. Listen, I did that one. Yeah, I did, but I'm not sure which one I imported. Oh man, I'm gonna do it again. Damn it. Import in. These damn rocks ain't being very nice today. Yeah, so I didn't do that one. 100, 250, 400. There we go. Now we got something that will work. We got a pretty rock. Now, I modified the texture when I added that extra map. Just remember, when you do stuff in here with the textures, it's going right onto the texture file that we created earlier. It's going to add stuff to it that you don't want on it. Let's go into that folder. Outrun, art. Where you at? Nice rock too. Where you at? There you go. Alright. See, so this is what the game engine adds. You don't need that stuff in there. As long as that texture map, that material, that DDS, as long as it's in that folder with that DAE file and this main.materials, then it does not need to know where they are, because it'll know that they're in there. And this makes it easy to share with other people, because they don't have to fool with making a material. It's just that this thing has to have its own folder, as far as I know, because it's got its own main.materials. One could add all that to that main.materials if they wanted to, but then, you know, if you just want to share your nice rock, well, then it's more complicated. Now, we don't need these PNGs. We already converted these, so this is what we're looking at. So this is what I'll zip. Maybe I should include a photograph that shows the folder, like how I got it in the art folder. I just don't know why, but I feel compelled to make that extra explanation. Like, if it's not clear enough to make it have its own folder in the art folder, maybe a photograph will illustrate that better. Image, crop to selection, file, export as. I'll just stick this one on. Actually, no. I'll stick this one in the art folder. uh, where extracted folder goes .jpg. I'll just reuse this damn file. Shit's got to be complicated today. So, yes, that is the right image. So this, nice rock 2, add move to zip file. Four megs. The other one's like 40 megs. No, it's actually 10 megs uncompressed. The other's 40 because I used 4K image instead of 1024. OneDrive. Where you at, nice rock 2? There you are. And that's the link right there. So once you get it, you extract that folder. You see where I got it? In the art folder. Nice rock 2. Should be all you have to do.